Welcome to this episode of Junk Food on the Road. This month we're going to be talking about
Qatar.
Or as some people call it, Qatar.
Qatar.
It's
I don't know what the correct pronunciation is.
I don't know. I know a lot of Middle East experts and they all say Qatar.
Qatar? I guess so. Qatar Air is Qatar Air. Yeah, I would say Qatar Air. So
Yeah.
it's probably Qatar. How about linguistically? QA, is that a K or an A?
Well, QA would be Ka and TAR would be Tar, but it just depends on where you put the stress.
Okay.
And so I think that maybe Qataris say Qatar. And
Qataris say Qatar.
Yep.
Qataris?
Qataris.
I can't even say that. My brain won't let me say it. Qataris.
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 I think it's
Qataris.
Qataris. But I think they say Qatar, like Qatari, but they say Qatar.
Qatar. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And nothing to do with snacks at all, but interesting.
Yeah. Well, we could start doing linguistics on the road.
A new podcast coming soon.
Nobody will ever want to hear it.
Well.
Okay. So I have to admit, I'm having a hard time remembering some of the stuff that we had in Qatar.
Okay. Well, the one thing that we can say is Cheesecake Factory.
Yes, we had cheesecake every day.
So to explain the trip to Qatar a little bit better, our last episode of Junk Fud on the Road was Oman, and this was the second part of that trip. And the Omani part of the trip was specifically designed to sort of be adventures through the countryside, and because we'd heard a lot about the sort of countryside and outside of Muscat. And if you listen to the podcast, it focuses sort of on that sort of thing. The second half of the trip was about going to Doha and sort of exploring the city and doing a lot of Western things. So part of what you could say about Doha, particularly now after the World Cup, is that it is kind of a hub like Dubai for Western stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's like Dubai light with a little bit more sort of like Middle Eastern rules. Well, Dubai also has the Middle Eastern rules, but they're a little bit more forgiving.
I would say it's a little more, it's still a little more Middle Eastern in that there's the souk, the big souk, I forget what it's called.
Oh my God.
Souk Waqif?
Yes, Souk Waqif.
Souk Waqif. And so there's a bit more of that. There is definitely that in Dubai, but I'd also, from what I understand of Dubai, is before it was built into a big city, there wasn't much of a city there in Dubai. And it sort of just became, like, basically went from a fishing village to, like, one of the most modern cities in the world. Whereas I think Qatar has a bit more history. Or Doha. Doha has a bit more history and has been around a little bit longer. Like, there's an old city that I think has been there for a long time.
Because of the pearl trade.
Yes, that's the one thing that we learned in the museum, is the pearl trade. But so there is sort of this like background of tradition, but it's been sort of overshadowed modernism and then also the World Cup sort of.
And villages all but basically disappeared in Qatar after they discovered oil. So there was this big city Doha, which was sort of the trading center. And then there were all these little villages that were there for fishing and pearl diving. And then when oil came, people went and started working in the oil fields instead.
Yeah.
And apparently something like 90% of the population of Doha is now foreign workers. And I think there's like, I don't remember, something like 99.9% of the population of the whole country lives in Doha. And of that, only like a tenth of them are actual Qataris.
Which leads us to the fact that basically most of the food we ate was Western food. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of that, like Western and European food was plentiful.
We did go to that one restaurant in the souk.
Yeah.
That was a little bit more traditional. First we tried the one restaurant that was like nice and sort of sitting outside and near where the camels and the seashore were. But we went at like 12:30 or 1 o'clock, and they weren't serving lunch until 2. They were still on breakfast.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, like I found my people.
People that like to sleep in.
Yes.
Yeah, And so we went. We did. I think that was like one of our first meals there too. I think.
It may have been.
I think Cheesecake Factory was our first meal.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, we love going to Cheesecake Factory whenever we can.
You know, in our defense, we live in a place that's got like real challenges with food availability.
Yeah, so when we have opportunities for Western food, we go for it. We had cheesecake every day. We didn't go to Cheesecake Factory every day, but sometimes we got it to go.
And then ate it the next day.
Ate it the next day, and then we also went to Cheesecake Factory a couple times just for dessert.
Yes.
And had meals.
And we got to know our waitress very well. Her
Yes.
name was Chris.
Yes.
She's lovely.
She's amazing. If you're ever in Qatar at the Bellagio Mall and you go to Cheesecake Factory, tell Chris that Chris and Allison say hello.
Yeah. She'll remember us for sure.
Yeah.
She might. We ate cheesecake every day.
And we chatted with her quite a bit. So, But either way, tip her well. She's very nice.
She is very nice.
We did go to that one restaurant in Souk Waqif. Souk Waqif is interesting. I'll say for a candy thing, it's very interesting because there still is a sort of sign of the traditional dealers there. Like you still get the idea that there is like bulk trade still done in this souk, even though it's a tourist attraction as well. Like you'd sort of see people where you can hire these people that push carts around, and there's people using them and filling up.
And there seems to be areas where there just weren't very many tourists. I think a lot of tourists will just sort of hang around the edges. And we went pretty deep into the market, not because we thought let's be braver than them, but we wanted to find the Falcon Hospital.
Yeah, we were kind of lost.
Basically.
And so I came across a candy store there, and there's a few of them, and they sell a lot of sort of like herbs and spices and things like that, but then they have these like bulk sweet stores that are really great. And the cool thing is they're very amenable, is that the word? Amenable to letting you sort of just get a few of things.
Yeah, I think like they had different bins that had different prices on them, but in total there were probably about 10 different prices for the 200 bins that were there. So they were perfectly okay with taking like one thing from each bin and putting it in the same bag as things that were the same price.
Yeah. Although they probably would have let us put it all in one bag and just charge us the higher amount if we wanted.
Oh, probably.
So, but it was really good.
They were nice.
They were awesome, and they were helpful, and they were cool with you trying something. Like we were looking at nuts and stuff there, and they were like totally fine with us like taking a bite and trying it, and you know, even though we weren't gonna buy like an excessive amount, we're gonna buy like enough to snack on for that day. They were totally cool about that and friendly, and so it may seem a little intimidating, and it may seem like some of those bulk stores in the souk are just for buying lots of stuff, but our experience was, you know, particularly at this one store, totally okay.
Totally accommodating,
Yeah.
super nice, super helpful, made great suggestions, and not just, here, try this thing that's 10 times as expensive as everything else. It's sort of like, oh, wait, if you like this, you might like this. And
Yeah, it was really, really nice and really friendly. And, you know, in general, I found that the Qatari people were friendly and awesome in that respect. So that was awesome. So Souk Waqif, definitely a tradition. And they have some restaurants there that are kind of interesting, worth trying. You know, it seems a little more at night. Like we went through there at night, and they sort of had a little bit more action going on in the restaurants than during the day.
Yeah.
Like during the day, we were like, I think there was like 2 other people at the tables, and I think one table was the owners.
Yeah. And boy, they give you a lot of pita bread.
Oh my God, and it's fresh.
I didn't have any.
It's so fresh. It's so good. So, and even we went to a bakery near our hotel at one point, and they have this cool machine where they're making the pita bread.
And it puffs up as it comes out the machine.
Yeah, and you can actually watch it through the window. And we were just looking out the window, and then they call us in, and they're like, come try some. And they literally pulled one fresh off the machine and gave it to us just for free, just a sample. You know, and it was
so hot.
It was so hot, and it was so good. Like, and they were offering us like, we could try it. They were like, oh, try a falafel. And there's a lot of that
Yeah, we had some falafel.
Yeah.
And then we were going to go back and get like a shawarma for dinner from there or something.
Just
and
didn't
then
work out.
I think we went to the Torch instead.
Yeah. But it, you know, very, you know, like the friendliness of that and the idea of samples being a way to sell seems to be quite popular.
Mm-hmm. And all the samples are delicious and fresh and oh my goodness.
They sell you for sure.
Do they ever?
So yeah, so that experience, particularly in the old town, which is where we were staying, which is not completely Old Town anymore, but I think that's where the Old Town was.
And we found Tim Hortons.
Yes.
Twice.
Yes.
Once we did it on purpose. We went to a mall that we knew there was going to be a Tim Hortons, because that's the one that was closest to us on the map. But then on our last day, we went for a walk, and there was just this little sort of pastel-colored mud hut-looking place that we could sort of see across the harbor from our hotel. And so we just sort of started walking towards it to see what it would look like, and whatever. And then we ended up going there. It started with a sort of a boat service area where all the shops are in old containers, but then you continue on, and it's just this sort of, I guess, designed to attract tourists, because there were locals there, but it didn't seem like anybody lived there.
No.
It was just this sort of fake old village set of stores.
I feel like it might have been real, but then upgraded.
Maybe, but remember when we went to the bathroom, it was like there was like these quaint little huts, and then you open up a little door that says to the bathrooms, and then you're just in like an industrial
It looked like the back end of a
basement.
mall.
Yeah, so I don't know, but we were just about to leave, and we thought, well, let's get something to drink for the walk back to wherever we were going, some museum, I think. And we sort of looked in the grocery store, and then before we went into the grocery store, something made us turn around, and right in front of us was the Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
So we abandoned the grocery store and
got
some Tim Hortons.
Yeah. Once again, Middle East Tim Hortons saves the day.
Yeah, that was so awesome.
Like, probably one of the best, like, other than Canada, I feel like any Middle Eastern Tim Hortons, they know how to do it.
Yeah.
And I wrote a piece about it recently. Maybe you can agree or disagree with me about this. But I feel like in the Middle East, they do Tim Hortons the best, other than Canada. They do it, it's the closest to Canada, because it doesn't feel like a Canadian-themed restaurant. It just feels like a Tim Hortons.
It's kind of true. The thing that I think that happened, because when we lived in Pakistan, I had so many people, so many of the Pakistanis that I met through work, kept asking me to please try and convince Tim Hortons to come to Pakistan, which it has now, finally. And it's because a lot of them studied in Canada, and a lot of Pakistanis do some time in Dubai as well. And I think that might have had some kind of relationship, like a lot of the foreign workers, whatever level they are, that end up in Dubai have also spent some time studying in Canada or something. And so there's like this sort of really neat cross-cultural nexus there.
Yeah. And like we've been to one, like Thailand is still kind of like a Canadian, like they have like the hockey sticks on the doors, and it's very sort of Canadianish, and I think they even wore plaid shirts at the...
No, that was in Shanghai.
Okay, but I didn't remember. I remember Shanghai felt like a themed restaurant.
Yeah.
And Thailand a little bit.
Yeah.
But every Middle Eastern one.
Middle East, it feels like Tim Hortons.
It just feels like a Tim Hortons, like a nice place to get a coffee and a donut.
Yeah.
I mean, the selection of donuts is different, but there's a certain sort of just people go there to enjoy it. I think it's sort of almost become commonplace too. Like, I don't think it's special in that it's special in that it's not special. It's not like this, like, ooh, a Tim Hortons. It's like, oh, it's a Tim Hortons. And that's what Tim Hortons should be. It's to me, is sort of like a Tim Hortons in Canada is not a special place, but it's an important place. You know what I mean? I feel like it's just a little more subtle, I guess, in the Middle East than it is.
Yeah, it's a little more subtle, and it's a little more sort of in the style of Tim Hortons' roots.
Yeah. So that was my thing.
But it was so nice because it was literally our second last day, and I thought, well, I'm never going to have another Tim Hortons until we, go to Dubai next or whatever. And then I got a nice surprise.
Yeah. I was thinking, you were talking about going to museums, and I was thinking, remember that restaurant at the museum?
At the Natural History Museum?
Yeah.
That was fancy.
That was super fancy. We were just like trudging around the museum in shorts and a t-shirt, and then it turns out there's a super fancy restaurant that like 18-star restaurant designed by some super schmancy Japanese designer and a French
and
chef,
a famous French chef, and the chandeliers were all Limoges crystal beads or something. I don't know. And the plating was like, I don't know. Do I like?
They like grind the spices in front of you.
Do I like just spray shellac over this and put it up on my wall, or do I eat this? Or
and there was always like tables, some kind of extra table service thing. Like they would bring over like, oh, we have this oil, and we'll grind this herbs into your oil for you in front of you.
Like there were like 3 mortars and pestles on our table for them to prepare our herbs.
Yeah. It was good food, and you know what? I mean,
it was super yummy.
Fortunately, we're fairly comfortable in fancy places.
Yeah, thank goodness.
And they seemed to accept that we were, okay.
Yeah.
And so
we didn't. I don't think we looked cowed enough for them to sort of go, oh, you shorts and t-shirt people must get out of here. We were sort of like, yeah, we belong.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is, it's funny. I remember, and this is, I feel like this happens more often, but maybe we don't experience all the time. But I think they kept asking us if we had reservations. Like we went to ask for the restaurant.
It was empty.
Yeah, I think 3 times we were asked if we had reservations, and we said no. And literally there was of a restaurant that could hold maybe like
200 people.
There was maybe 6.
Well, there was the table outside, so 8.
Yeah, there's like 8 people in the entire restaurant, and we were just constantly asked.
Do you have a reservation?
No.
Do you really think we need one?
Yeah.
Too hilarious.
I wonder if do you have a reservation? I don't know if you want to eat here. You're wearing shorts and a t-shirt. And then we just kept on like blindly going, no, but can we go? And it's like,
nope, but we would like to eat here, please.
Yeah. We also ate on the tower, which anybody who follows World Cup, it was the big sort of tower that they lit, like the torch.
The torch.
The torch that they lit. It has a restaurant inside it.
Also known for Amazing Race fame.
Yeah, so I guess so. Yeah. And it's a rotating restaurant, which I haven't eaten in a rotating restaurant in I don't know how long. It's like
CN Tower?
Yeah, like I was in probably my 20s or teens even last time I ate in a rotating restaurant. So it was fun. It was nice because we were trying to, since we didn't explore Qatar as much, it was nice to be up high and sort of being able to see the city a little bit.
The thing was, we were so high up, and yet we still couldn't find the edge.
Yeah, it was just.
And we even asked the maitre d', like, where's the edge?
Yeah.
And he pointed us to like the seashore.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I mean like the desert edge.
Yeah, like where does the city? And the only time we came close to that, when we went on our last day, we went to that mall.
The mall at the very end of the subway line, where we got a shock because we got on the subway, and all of a sudden we got to the second last stop in this mall that we wanted to go to just for the heck of going, and there was a cheesecake factory there.
There was also
and a Tim Hortons.
There was a Carrefour, and we wanted to go shopping for some stuff that like cheese and stuff.
But there were Carrefours other places. I think we just wanted to hit a different mall.
Yeah.
So we get to the second last stop, and then the train takes off to go to the next stop, and the amount of time that it takes to get to between stops came and went, and then another period like that came and went, and another period like that came and went, and about 10 of those periods later, and maybe even more, we came out from under the ground, and there was desert.
Yeah.
There were some buildings too, including the giant mall, but we found the desert.
There was a fort, and it was raining too, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, it's true. It was raining, wasn't it?
Yeah, but yeah, there was just our last dessert in Qatar was Cheesecake Factory.
Yep.
So we didn't get that. Wasn't the one that Chris works at. So.
No.
Except the Bellagio one, but.
That's right, the Bellagio, which also has the torch next to it.
Yeah. So, and we also that's the other Western foods. We had a TGIF, which we discovered or discussed was not appropriate for Muslim countries because Friday is not the last day of the week in the Muslim calendar.
Yeah, Friday's their Sabbath.
Yeah.
So they work until Thursday, and then they start up again on Sunday. So it should be TGIT.
Yeah. So, then we also at one point had Shake Shack.
Oh, we did, didn't we?
It was good.
And it was a much more positive experience than my first Shake Shack experience.
Your first Shake Shack experience was in New York. It was crowded. It was just not comfortable. The tables were sort of turned, like, once you got your order, there was plenty of table space. And
that's another thing that the Middle East can do is food courts. Like, if you go to Greece and you go to a food court, then you're competing with all the people who've gotten their thimbleful of coffee and want to spend 6 hours sitting in the food court, so you don't have anywhere to eat. But in Qatar and Oman, we never had problems finding a table.
Never.
And it wasn't that they had like super extra deluxe version of food courts with like 8 bajillion tables. It was food court size.
Yeah.
And we were fine.
I think takeout's quite popular in both of those countries as well. I saw a lot of people that sort of like got stuff to go. Like I don't think that's shunned upon that much. And again, I think that's why Western food does well there, because takeout for Western food is always popular.
I guess.
So, but yeah, it was every experience. There's a little bit more, I think, on offer in Qatar as far as Western foods than there is in Oman.
I guess so, but Oman was pretty good. We had a Philly cheesesteak in Oman. It wasn't great.
It was okay, but I don't think there was a Shake Shack. I don't think there wasn't Cheesecake Factory. So a lot of the sort of famous places that we know.
But it had McDonald's strawberry custard pie, whereas Qatar didn't.
Did not. No.
Yeah.
But that's a very personal choice rather than.
Oh, those are so good. I don't know why they don't sell those in Canada.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Custard.
My first one was in Cyprus.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah, again, we did a lot of Western foods, and it was good. I mean, the one thing you have to sort of be prepared for is Western foods in Middle Eastern countries. You have the lack of pork.
Yeah, there's no pork.
Is a little interesting. So, if you have a favorite dish.
So if you're looking for pork ribs at TGI Fridays or Thursdays,
yeah,
then you're not going to get it. You'll get beef ribs though.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good.
I think the other thing I want to talk about, I'm going to write an article about this, but we can touch upon it, was McDonald's everywhere around the world allows you to order on those displays and do customizations. And I want to say that Qatar had the weirdest customizations at McDonald's ever.
You are so right.
There was and we one of the things we do once in a while is when we can customize, you kind of just see what happens. And I ordered a Big Mac with extra lettuce cut in half. And the lettuce was like a salad was like dumped on my Big Mac, but it was cut in half. And that's so you can actually order it like that as an option.
And I ordered a quarter pounder with cheese with
lettuce.
Like lettuce. I was able to add 2 units of lettuce. And wow, that was hard to eat.
It's just so it was such like weird choices. Like for us, obviously there's a reason people like it and all that.
I liked it.
But
I wish I'd gotten a fork.
Yeah. Our goal, I think, is always one of the reasons why I always check when we're doing those, like the customization, is I want extra pickles. And so if I see the extra pickles, that's what I go for. And you like to get an extra patty often.
Yeah.
So.
And less bun.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so it's.
I think there was one place we went, and I don't remember where it was, but I think it was in the last 6 months, where you could actually order bun parts.
Yeah, so top and bottom bun. I think that might have been Qatar.
It might have been.
Yeah, so you can get like an extra middle bun.
You could get an extra one, or you could just subtract one. So if you just wanted the bottom bun, you could do that. Or if you just wanted the top bun, you could do that.
Yeah, I think if I was to choose buns, I'd want the top one, because that's where the sesame seeds live.
Some of them don't have sesame seeds, though.
It's true. But yeah, Qatar had the weirdest.
They're not weird, just different.
Very different choices.
Differentest?
Than I've ever seen in any McDonald's, and that I had to sort of think about and go, wonder why. And we wondered enough that we got like some odd choices.
It was pretty cool.
It was fun. It was great. They did it right on. There was no sort of like, I think there might have been some giggling judgment, but not like beyond. I think that I feel like they knew that we were sort of pushing buttons to see what we could do, and they delivered.
Yep.
So, hats off to them. It actually reminded me, because at that same place where we went to McDonald's, they had a Jollibee. And one of the things we discovered in Qatar was there's a lot of Filipino food, and I discovered Filipino tomato sauce.
Yeah, spaghetti sauce.
Yeah, this like the spaghetti sauce.
Yeah. Okay.
And I discovered what it was, and I've got an episode of a quick reaction where I taste it. But there is a lot of Filipino food there. Like there was a whole marketplace that we went to that had a lot of Filipino food.
True. Most of the grocery stores had a Filipino section.
Yeah. So it seemed quite popular. I imagine maybe there's a migration something.
I think that a lot of the foreign workers in Qatar are like that 90% of the population, probably half of that is Filipino.
Yeah.
Almost everybody we met in stores and stuff was Filipino.
And the numbers of like Jollibees, like every mall had a Jollibee, and a lot of, as we said, that almost all the grocery stores had like massive sections for Filipino food. So, you know, even to the point where I think I found some Filipino food in the regular food section. Like it wasn't necessarily.
Because in Qatar it is regular food.
Yeah, it's not in the foreign food section. So that was pretty good. But,
yeah.
You know, I'm glad I got that. And
I know some people told us that we would enjoy Oman much better than Qatar, they were right as far as like things to do and things to see.
Mm-hmm.
But I also very much enjoyed Qatar.
I did too.
That's
Definitely.
where we went to the Muslim Information Center and had a virtual tour of the Hajj.
Yeah, and I learned about that stick that you rub your teeth with, which is kind of.
Oh yeah.
What is it? I can't remember. Nizwit, something like that. And it's apparently a stick that you rub on your teeth. That's apparently really interesting. And I've actually walked by a few mosques since, and I see them selling it outside. And I understand what it's for, and it's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, but yeah, really. It's a great place to visit. Highly recommend it.
Yeah,
you know.
I would if I were going to do it again, I would probably have put one extra day in Oman and one less day in Qatar.
Maybe.
But I was perfectly satisfied with both.
Yep.
What we did.
Yep, totally satisfied, and it's a great place, and it's everything that it's advertised. Like there was no surprises in Qatar. Like Oman was surprising how much it is like the description. Like people would say, leave the city and explore the countryside. It's really interesting and all that.
Yeah.
I was kind
and it's very mountainous.
Yeah. But Qatar was exactly as delivered. Like, you know, modern city, you know, easy to get around Doha. You know, and sort of an international sort of like the vibe of the World Cup is still there.
Yeah. Although we were thwarted in a lot of our attempts to see stuff because there was post-World Cup reconstruction going on after the crowds destroyed stuff.
Yeah, that was a little disappointing. But on the whole, I bet, you know, probably now and a few months from now, it'll be sort of a little bit more back to normal. And that definitely worth a stop if you're going to the Middle East. You know, give it a try.
Yeah. If I had to pick which country to go to, if I could only pick one of the two, I would pick Oman. But Qatar is definitely up there.
The Oman-Qatar team up. They're very different places, and they work well together.
Yeah, and we were able to get visas on arrival everywhere we went, which was it's really super easy to find visa information online about Qatar and Dubai, and it's really hard about Oman. Like I sort of went in going, well, here we go, let's see what happens, but it turned out to be remarkably easy.
Yeah. So I think that's it.
That's all I got.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of Junk Food on the Road, where we talked about
Qatar.
Or Qatar.
You decide.
As always, you can follow us on Twitter @CandyCritic, or go to candycritic.org and find links to all the other social medias that the world has out there. Always trying out new ones when we can. You can also join the Patreon there. And you can pick up my 2 books, Snack Facts and Treats and Beasts. So if you've got a kid, or if you're a kid at heart, you'll probably enjoy those books quite a bit.
Or if you just enjoy fun art.
Fun art and fun books. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.